Pro wrestling fans are more than familiar with the idea of a shoot, the act of intentionally attempting to hurt your opponent and going beyond the predetermined world of kayfabe. There's been a plethora of incidents fans can point to when they think about in-ring shoots, whether that be the great Sasuke's beatdown with the Dirt Bike Kid, JBL bloodying the Blue Meanie at One Night Stand 2005, or Daniel Puder's entry at the 2005 Royal Rumble, which saw him get roughed up by Eddie Guerrero, Bob Holly, and Chris Benoit as retribution for Puder's own shoot on Kurt Angle the year prior. However, none of these instances compare to the subject of today's video, an incident involving a leather jacket, a pole, and a knife. An incident that saw one wrestler threaten another's life, and an incident where said wrestler's life was mere inches from being over. However, if you want to learn more about obscure incidents from the world of pro wrestling, consider subscribing to my channel. I hope to create new content focusing on wrestling's little known stories, and the easiest way to support me on this journey is to subscribe to my channel. In the mid to late 1990s, mixed martial arts experienced a sudden rise in popularity. Fighters like Royce Gracie, Ken Shamrock, and Dan Severn became the face of MMA in America, in association with the UFC. However, the rise in interest in MMA stretched worldwide, with pro wrestling promotions in Japan becoming infatuated with the fast-rising sport. Organizations like the UWFI and the Minoru Suzuki-led Pancrase blurred the lines between work and shoot in ways that still affect today's modern pro wrestling product. With the rise in MMA, American companies tried to get in on the action. The then WWF signed fighters like Dan Severn and Ken Shamrock, while introducing wrestlers with shoot fighter gimmicks like Steve Blackman. Alongside these new wrestlers, the WWF created a shoot fighting tournament known as the Brawl for All. The event was later deemed an absolute failure, failing to get over the desired wrestlers while causing injuries, chaos, and the deaths of careers. However, we aren't talking about the Brawl for All, or the WWF's attempts to capitalize on the rise in MMA. Instead, today we are talking about World Championship Wrestling's attempts to capitalize on mixed martial arts. WCW's foray into MMA was much lighter than the WWF's. I can only find two martial artists signed by the Southern Wrestling Company. One name is Sam Greco, who fought in Japan's K1 promotion as a kickboxer before training in WCW's Developmental. Greco never appeared in WCW before its closure. However, he did appear in 2002's Scooby-Doo movie as the masked luchador Zarkos, alongside future WWE writer Freddie Prinze Jr. But today's story involves the second MMA fighter hired by WCW, Tank Abbott. Abbott competed in amateur wrestling at a California community college and trained in boxing. However, most of Abbott's success allegedly came on the streets. Rumor has it that Abbott fought in countless street fights, rarely losing. UFC creator Art Davie talked about the fighter's violent tendencies. Quote, "He's not irrational, but if he decides he wants to kick your ass, he'll jump you in a hotel elevator and he'll kick the out of you. He doesn't think twice about it. There's no sense of morality." Unquote. Abbott's tendency for violence led to immediate success inside the octagon. In 1995, Abbott debuted in MMA at the UFC 6 tournament. At the event, he defeated John Matua and Paul Varlans in quick succession to book his ticket to the tournament finals. However, Abbott's quest for gold ended at the hands of Oleg Taktarov. Abbott's UFC success continued at the Ultimate 96 tournament, where he once again made it to the finals before losing to UFC Hall of Famer Don Frye. Abbott's UFC career slowed following his second tournament finals appearance, accruing 2 wins and 3 losses in his final 5 fights. Abbott retired from MMA in 1998 and began wrestling in WCW in 1999. Tank was brought in to face Goldberg, but a feud never materialized between the two. Still, Abbott would continue wrestling in WCW and soon feud against Big Al, a man with such little consequence in the pro wrestling industry that he doesn't have a page on Cage Match. Instead, Big Al was a sparring partner of Tank Abbott's who, in storyline, believed Abbott had sold out by going into pro wrestling. The whole affair led to a skins match, aka a leather jacket on a pole match at Super Brawl 2000 at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, with 8,569 fans in attendance. This match is weird. It begins with Tank and Al yelling at each other for an extended period of time before Al removes his belt and places it around his arm before sticking his hand out to Tank. The match's first mistake occurs as Tank takes Al's hand with too much force, causing the belt to fall to the ground. Eventually, the two get their right hands tied together. A fact the commentary notes will be bad for Abbott, as his right hook has been built as a devastating strike that can knock people out in one blow. The two begin exchanging strikes before Abbott knocks Big Al down momentarily, only for Big Al to come back and hit Tank with a blow supposedly so hard that it knocks Tank out and completely breaks the belt previously attached to the two wrestlers' hands. Big Al proceeds to celebrate and heal up the crowd before dragging Tank to the corner, slowly stepping up to the first rope and stepping on Tank's face with his full force. It is honestly a fairly effective heel spot that highlighted Tank's toughness. Unfortunately for Al, his footrest doesn't take too kindly to being stepped on. Regaining consciousness and swiping Al off his face, Tank lays into Al, tossing him to the ground with a judo throw and knocking him out with a devastating left hook? Yeah, all that hype around the right hook was good for nothing. Nevertheless, with Al knocked out, Abbott puts on another impressive feat of strength, putting Al on his shoulder and climbing the ropes to grab the jacket. However, this is where the match goes off the rails. I'm unsure if Al was supposed to lean further forward, or if Tank couldn't maintain his balance with a 200 plus man on his shoulder. Nevertheless, Tank drops Al off his back and onto the arena floor, and Tank looks pissed. Now, Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer newsletter claims that the fall at the end of the bout was a planned spot. Still, it's clear something went wrong. My guess? Tank was supposed to throw Al to the ground in a controlled fashion, but the two men's weight took Tank's balance away, causing the fall. The strongest evidence that this spot went wrong is what happened immediately after. Instead of finishing the match by grabbing the jacket, Tank jumps to the arena floor and punches it down to Al directly in the chest. After giving Al a dirty look, Tank ascends the rope and finally retrieves his jacket, winning the match. Now, the bell may have rung, but the segment will only get worse from here. Tank fumbles through his jacket and pulls out a knife, tossing his coat aside and dropping back to the arena floor. Tank approaches Al and kicks away the trainer attending to the downed wrestler before putting a knife to his throat and exclaiming, "I could fucking kill you, you know." A few seconds later, the camera cuts to a crowd shot as Tony Schiavone states that the object in Abbott's hand was likely scissors that he was going to use to shave Al's non-existent beard.
I think maybe that was a pair of scissors going to cut off his beard or something there.
And that is more or less the entire segment, and I'll be honest, this thing is rough. I'll give Tank this. He was surprisingly over with the crowd. However, his shine was so strange and short that it left the crowd more confused than exhilarated. Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer newsletter gave the match a quarter star, surprisingly far from the worst rating of the night. Now, let's discuss the legitimacy of Abbott's use of a knife at the end of the match. If you're familiar with late stage WCW, then you know that the booking department loved their swerves and work shoots. They utilized tropes such as addressing a wrestler by their real name, having a wrestler voice their displeasure for the company, or even using the word shoot in scripted promos. With that said, I believe this incident was not planned by WCW management. We can see how angry Tank Abbott is for the seemingly botched pole spot. We've also heard from those close to Abbott how he could turn violent if he believed you deserved it. Could this have been a moment where Abbott saw red and decided to show his dominance to a pay-per-view audience? It's possible. However, I will note it seems odd for a knife to be in the jacket used in this match. This detail makes it seem as if this incident was planned ahead of time. Could this just have been Abbott's personal jacket he gave to production to hang on the pole, which happened to have all of his regular belongings in it? I've also heard a different theory online about what happened that night. The idea is that Abbott was looking to give himself more legitimacy or appear like an unstable man to the WCW audience. If that is the case, then it would make sense that he planned this stunt without the knowledge of the WCW brass. Personally, I'm not sure which option is more plausible. However, WCW was far from subtle with their work shoot angles. I doubt they would cut away from an angle like this so quickly if it was really planned. And hey, if this really was intended by WCW's booking team, shout out to you, I got worked. One thing that makes it seem like this was a work was that Abbott seemingly wasn't punished for this incident. Tank would win a squash match on Thunder 2 days after the pay-per-view, and then would receive a shot at the World Heavyweight title on the next week's Nitro. Abbott would work for WCW until the end of 2000, earning a few title shots, but never capturing gold within the promotion. After his time in WCW, he wouldn't wrestle again until 2008, at a show for the Inoki Genome Federation in Japan against Josh Barnett. Tank returned to the UFC in 2003, losing all 3 of his fights in the promotion. Following his second stint in UFC, Abbott would fight in other notable promotions such as Pride, Strikeforce, and Elite XC. In the latter promotion, Abbott would become the second victim in the professional career of the notorious street fighting sensation, Kimbo Slice. As for Big Al, I'm not really sure where he is. It's hard to find any good information on the guy. All I can say is, I hope he is healthy and happy in life right now. But that's the story of one of the most dangerous shoot incidents in the history of pro wrestling. What do you think? Was this incident real or a work? Like I said, I'm still not 100% sure what to think about the incident, even after all my research. So, if you have an opinion on the matter, I'd love to hear it. Voice your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and maybe even subscribe to my channel to help me know that this is the content you're interested in seeing more of. Be happy, be safe, and have a nice day. Bang bang.